Hey everyone. At work, I've got quite a lot of videos to record in my backlog, so I'm starting to teach one of my colleagues how to do software video recording. And I thought since it's fresh in my mind, I'd put it all down in a video for you as well. So, just a bit of background context. I usually record myself navigating through the screens while doing the voiceover. And I'm not saying that you have to do that. I'm just saying that when I try to do it separately, as in record my mouse moving across the screen and then record myself talking separately, when I joined it together, my mouse always moved faster than I spoke, and it seems like it was really unnatural when I played it back. So, again, I'm not saying you have to record your screen and your voice at the same time, but that's what I do. All right, so let's start with topic one. Let's say you have been given a new laptop and you're going to start recording videos, okay? What are some of the settings that you would change? So what I used to do is enlarge my mouse and change the color so that the mouse was more easily seen on the video. But now I use the ice cream recording software and it actually highlights the mouse when I click. So I don't need to do that anymore. And what I'll do is I'll snip in a view of the recording software just because I can't use the recording software and show you the recording software at the same time. So in ice cream, when I come down to settings and I can go, what do I go to? Let me see. Here I go to video and it animates the mouse clicks, which of course we want if we're doing software training. And that's what I like. It does a sort of ripple effect when you click the left or right mouse button. You can highlight the mouse at all points, but I don't find that's necessary. So the second thing that you might want to do is make sure that your bookmarks bar doesn't show. So I'll open up a browser. So I like using Chrome. It's not actually what I use at work. I use Edge, but at home I use Chrome. So this is what I'm talking about, this bookmarks bar. It's just taking up screen real estate. And also, do you really want everyone to see what your home folders or bookmarks are? At work, you probably have client sites saved, and that's a privacy compliance issue, right? Yeah, I usually have it hidden. So I'll show you when I go to a new screen, let's say 0, you don't see the bookmarks bar anymore, right? So privacy issue resolved. Now, the other thing that you'll notice is that I don't have my taskbar showing at the bottom because again, that would take up screen real estate. Again, it's just messy having all your Word and your Teams or Slack there. It's just not necessary for software training. So I actually have it permanently hidden on my laptop screen and I have it shown all the time on my other bigger screen. I do recognize that you may not want to do that if you only work on a laptop, but it's something to consider if you're recording software training videos all the time. Now let's move on to what would you do before recording each time? All right, so my first tip is silence all your notifications, everything that can make a noise. The hand phone, the instant messenger from work, Slack or Teams. My washing machine sings a song when it finishes, and it's so loud that it actually picks up on the microphone. So all of that, shut the door so that you can't hear the washing machine, the dog, the cat wanting to be fed, just everybody shush, okay? You can bet that as soon as you start recording, everyone's going to message you. And it just doesn't sound professional to have that ding, 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 ding happen in the software training video. The only thing that I'm not fussed about is the sound of birds in the background. There's nothing really I can do about it. I try edit it out in post editing, but I usually find if I just shut the door and close the curtains, you can't really hear the birds. The other thing I do is I always press F11 before I start recording. So you'll see when I press F11 that URL bar goes away. Again, it's just not necessary to see. It's taking up screen real estate unless, and I'll press F11 again, unless you're sort of swapping between tabs, then yes, you do want to show this URL bar. The other thing to consider is your search history. So in Chrome, I have a refresh button, but I'm pretty sure in Edge, which I was using for work, that if I want to refresh, I have to click in and press enter. And in Edge, when I click in, it actually brings up all my search history so I can see, what I've been looking up, which I didn't like at all. So let me just try and replicate it. If I go here and I start typing, can you see my search history has come up? And so you may want to clear your history so that it doesn't show up. And I think it's pretty obvious that if you have to show your tabs, only have the tabs that are relevant to the software training video open. What's the point of having 10 open? I went on a webinar training once where someone else was training and I was attending, and one of their tabs was date night ideas, which is super sweet, but not really relevant to training. And the last thing that I would check before I start recording, so these tips that I've given you, I do before recording all the time. The last thing I do is check the sound quality. So I record a mini video just going test, test, test sound and see that it picks up all right. Because what happens if I keep talking and my boom is far away, it doesn't really pick up the sound well. I'm not really sure if you can tell the difference. I mean, I think it's really noticeable. So I've recorded whole videos where the boom has been up, and I was like, that was a waste of time. If I did a little sound check, I would have picked it up. So I always do that sound test. Sometimes I find that when there's been a Microsoft update, it affects the sound. So not on my home laptop, but on my work laptop, there was a Microsoft update, and it just wasn't picking up the headset anymore. I don't know why. So now at work, I just record on my phone and then just put the sound file in and match up the video and the sound, which is a pain. All right, so I've now come to a different website just so that we can talk about the next topic, which is audio or narration tips. And usually I would have pressed on F11 on my keyboard to open it up, okay? So with software training, people usually play the training video on one screen and then try and copy what you're doing on their second screen, right? So they're not always staring at your video like it's some Star Wars movie, looking at every intricate thing you're doing. So for that reason, you need to narrate what you're doing. So don't just say press the menu for reports. You might say click on the menu at the top right and then navigate to the favorites tab and click on the courses tab. Right, this isn't a very good example because I don't have any favorites, but you get the gist of what I'm saying. You might say, in order to be taken back to the home screen, click on the logo at the top left. So just narrate what you're doing. If you're coming down the menu, don't just go click on user guide videos. You might say scroll down and click on user guide videos. My other tip is make sure you say it in the order that things need to be done. So what I hear people do quite a lot is they might say type the client's name and press enter. Well, where? You need to say, I know there's no search bar here, but you need to say navigate to the top right and in the search bar type in the client's name, then press enter. That's what you would do, right? So have it in the right order. I usually say press enter on the keyboard or press the space bar on the keyboard because I don't know, you may think it's obvious, but it may not be obvious, right? The other thing I'd say is use the correct software interface names. So, for instance, does your company call this the hamburger menu or the menu? Do they call these tiles? Do they call this? Well, this is not a widget, but like if something's a widget, call it a widget. If something's a panel, call it a panel. Click on the start button. Um, if you're talking about panels, do you say open and close? Do you say collapse and expand? And I don't really think it matters when you're the only trainer, as long as you're consistent. But when you're in a team, it'd be weird if this was a table. One person called this a record, one person called it a row. We just, in a team of trainers, want to call things by the same name so it's not confusing to clients. Do we say a client record? Do we say a client file? And that's something that your company should be able to tell you what things are called. My next tip is that I don't think you need to have a perfect one take video. The caveat is that you have editing software that does text-based editing. So with Premiere Pro, text-based editing came out maybe late last year or maybe early this year. So before that, I'd actually sort of rehearsed it a little bit before recording because it was difficult, or not difficult, it's just time consuming to edit out. But now with text-based editing, and I'll insert a clip in a moment, you can just highlight the text and delete, and it deletes that bit of the video. I do sort of check it out and test before I start recording the video. I want to be sure that what's said in help, what I've been upskilled in, is not out of date, right? But then I'll speak reasonably freely as I record the video. And usually, if something is simple, that's fine. If it's something a bit more complicated, then I will practice a bit before recording. I do want to make sure that there's nice flow, so I do jot down notes and refer back to them, but I no longer spend ages practicing it before pressing record, because the trade-off is that yes, it may sound perfect and I may have minimal editing, but how much time did I spend practicing? When it's now quite easy to edit videos with that Premiere Pro text-based editing, okay? What I usually do is if I muck up, which of course I'm going to, is I start at the beginning of the sentence or the beginning of the paragraph. So let me give you an example of what's not going to work. What's not going to work is if you say, bring your cursor to the top right, and then hover over the menu, and where is it? Where is it? Oh, click reports. Okay. Even if I edit that out, it doesn't sound very smooth because I went the, even if I snip the, it just sounds weird compared to when you say navigate to the menu at the top right and click the button. It just sounds so much smoother. So don't try and, I guess what I'm trying to say is that if you stumble on a word, don't start with the word again, start at the beginning of the sentence again. What's next in relation to audio narration is don't speak too quickly. Most video players will let you watch at double speed. Admittedly, not where I work, but most places do. So I'm not saying you have to speak super, super slow. I'm just saying don't speak too fast. Imagine you're speaking to a real person. You don't want to sound like you're a robot speaking from a script. You want to have some emotion. I usually find being as enthusiastic as you would be training a fresh grad joining your office. And that's the level of enthusiasm and clarity that I try to speak with, okay? You can afford to be a little bit more theatrical than in real life, especially since a lot of the time your voice is just carrying it all. Like it's a screen of a software and your voice. Okay, so if you're just going monotonous, it's just so sleepy. Okay, so there's nothing wrong with a pause here and there. There's nothing wrong with your voice going up and down. And I think that if you're feeling a bit down and sick of doing the video, it comes across in the video. So my previous senior trainer, Anthony, he said, try and smile when you're doing the video. It comes across in your voice. So smile if you have to, stand up if you have to, because you can get that voice projection out more. I have kids, I have a really loud voice. I don't need to stand up to be loud. Um, but I do think it's a really good tip, and I think that the smiling is a really good tip, right? You want your learners, right, your clients to feel that you're upbeat about it too, right? All right, so now let's talk a little bit about duration and content. So, on the vein of a new starter, you wouldn't overburden them with information overkill, right? You'd give them an appropriate amount of information and maybe they'd go away and practice. And it's the same with videos, right? I understand that your content may be so intricate that it's going to take 3 hours to cover everything. But we are not giving them three 1 hour videos where if they want to refresh their memory or they want to take a break, it's going to take them ages. Imagine going, oh my gosh, I just want to remember how to do that one thing. Where is it in this 1 hour video? No, please do not do that. I usually try and make my videos 5 minutes or less. Max, like max is 10 minutes, and that's if they have the ability to watch at double speed, which the learners in my company can't do. And so I'm always making sure that the videos I do for my company are 5 minutes or less. Okay. Just make it like part one, part two, part three, or name the videos appropriately so that they know what's next. Okay. In terms of content, that really depends on your company, right? They may just want a quick press this button, press that button. They might want a whole case study with why do you do this and this is best practice. So I can't really guide you there. You really have to be guided by what your company wants. All right, so the next tip relates to making your life easier when you need to update videos. So if we're talking about software training, your software is going to have new functionality or screen UX updates every once in a while. Like who's going to pay for a software that's the same forever? No one. And in training, you're going to have to reflect that because the worst thing is when your fellow colleagues and the clients, the learners, don't trust your training because, like, the screen is from 2 years ago. It's missing the functionality that came out 6 months ago. Like, should we even bother watching anything? It's all 6 months out of date. So, as a training team, my personal belief is that keeping things up to date is super important for your credibility so that the staff, your fellow staff members feel confident recommending that the clients watch it and clients feel confident to just self-service come back and check out what's new. So I know that was a large segue, but because you are definitely going to have to update videos quite often, there are some little tips you can do to make your life easier, okay? So sometimes you don't need to re-record a full 5 minute video. Sometimes just one little thing changed. So it might just be 30 seconds. So give yourself some leeway, okay? Let me just press F11. Your browser Zoom should be the same all the time. So I always record on my laptop and I always have the same Zoom so that even 1 year later, if I need to change 30 seconds out of a video, it's going to be the same. If not, what's going to happen is that your learner will be looking at it and then if you can't remember your browser Zoom and then in future you go 120, it'll suddenly snip to this part of the video where it's big, and then it might snip back to the old part of the video and look like this. And you're like, the learner's like, what the heck just happened there? So weird. Okay. So keep your zoom the same. That's the first tip. The other thing is don't record your face. Like I know I'm doing it because it's on YouTube. I'm not going to come back and update this. When you're doing this for a company, and you're going to keep the videos up to date, if you have your face there, you're going to look different, right? Like in 1 year, I'm going to have more wrinkles and more gray hair. Okay. I'm going to have different spectacles. My hair might be a different color. I think when I was 40, I had purple hair. Like this would be weird, right? For the learner. It's like just you when you're young and then 30 seconds of you when you're old and then come back out to when you're young. It doesn't make any sense. Don't do this if you're planning to snip in updates. If you're going to re-record from scratch all the time, or if it's like a webinar and it's just going to stay exactly as it is, then fine. Okay. So I understand that this is a company decision, uh, but I don't record my face. Carrying on with the above, you may be thinking, right, the screen's fine. You're not showing your face, that's fine. But won't I sound different? So for me, I sound fairly similar all the time. I don't record first thing in the morning because my voice is deeper, but from about 9, 10, even until night, my voice is fairly even. And so learners can't tell the difference when I step in my voice, okay? And for that reason, I never record when I'm sick because even though it sounds okay, it doesn't sound the same as when I usually record. So then if I have a video where I sounded sick and I try and snip it in future when I'm sounding normal, you'll be able to tell the difference. Okay, if I'm sick, I just take the week off recording, do something else, do some admin or some upskilling. And then I have my training voice, right? The other thing is I make sure that my boom is always the same. So this boom, I'm sorry, I know in this video I've been knocking it a little bit. I don't wave my hands around when I'm doing software training videos, but I guess I'm more talking to you through the camera this time. This particular headset, I'm not saying this is the best. I actually got this from my previous company. They just gave it to me, so I just use it. But this particular one is fixed. So all I do is make sure it's near my mouth and it's the same distance away, right? It's about this far away. But the previous headset that previous company gave me, actually you could make the boom further away or closer. It was actually a better headset, but I think it just stopped being manufactured. And so what I used to do is just do this. What did I do? I think I used to do this, three fingers or something like that. And then because it was a wobbly, not wobbly, like adjustable boom, I used to just always make sure it was pretty the same away from my mouth. Like I know it sounds like a lot of steps. It just took 2 seconds, right? You just like here, make the boom close enough. Okay, go. So maybe that's something to consider if you are recording videos with that type of headset. For work, I actually record with my phone and I just have it on a tissue box like this in front of me, like at the same distance all the time. I think it's about this far away. When you put it too close, you actually get this sound. Even if you're recording on your headset, if you put it too close to your mouth, you get this sound, which is quite difficult to edit out. Maybe if someone's a better video or audio editor, they can get it out, but I just find it's really difficult to get that sound out, especially if it's halfway through a word. So I guess to round up this little topic, to me, with software training, it's more about quantity than quality. I really do want to keep it up to date so that staff and clients trust that you can refer back to it and it's going to be the latest functionality. And so to me, it's not about quality. I'm not having flashy buttons, flashy this in my software training videos. I'm having just the latest content, the best practice. As long as it's professional and accurate and clear, that's what I want. I don't want a blockbuster. I'm not making Star Wars, okay? So I understand that you'll be guided by what your company wants. Yeah, if you're going to have like a huge training team that can spend the time on making all the visuals perfect, animations and whatnot, that's great. Are we? Are we going to have that in a software company? I don't think so. So the previous company I worked for had a weekly release train. And there was like a time where one of the modules had something different on the screen every single week, which was so exciting for clients. They're like, yes, every time we put in a suggestion, boom, it's in like a month. But from a training perspective, that was really difficult. And so we really needed to be on the ball and make sure that when we record videos, we're smart about it, okay, giving us this leeway. All right. So that was the last topic that I had. I can't think of any more software training video related tips. It's pretty specific, right? Like I'm not making a marketing trailer. I'm not making educational content for children where you want it to be all beautiful with cartoons. Like it's specific software training. What I think clients want is to know how to do it quickly, right? They are working, they don't have time to watch a blockbuster movie about how to do something. Yes, sometimes they want an in-depth webinar on why to do something, but a lot of the times it's just show me how to do it. I just forgot. I know it's like two buttons away. Okay. And really for training, you need both. You need like something in depth for someone who's brand new, who needs to understand the why and the best practice. And then you need something quick for someone who just needs a refresher or someone who's pretty experienced and they're just going a bit further and more advanced, okay? But if you can think of any other software training tips, I'd love to hear about it in the comments. If you want to know how do I edit videos, let me know. If you want to know how to do some of the things I said, like taking away the taskbar and the bookmarks, let me know. Um, with video editing, I have a very simple workflow. As I said, I'm more about quantity than some sort of blockbuster quality. And I hope that if you're in software, you do take the time to do software training videos. I've heard people say, oh, we don't put screenshots in our help, or we don't do so much with videos because, oh, it's just going to be so much work to keep it up to date, right? But I hope you give it a go and realize that it's not actually hard making the software training video. It's just hard keeping up with all the functionality updates. And if you have enough people on your team and an organized system to be on top of all the changes and the releases, that you'll be fine. I think that a lot of corporate training teams do view the ability to record training videos and edit it, and on a side note, being able to decide what content goes in it as well, which I know we didn't cover in this video. But I do think that this is a skill that's looked at favorably in training. So yeah, I hope this is helpful. I hope you guys have a great week and remember to be kind to yourself.